When it comes to animating cameras, it's all just a question of maintaining perspective. As long as you have a good idea as to what's going on in your scene and you can see a good overview of your project, animating your camera can be relatively painless. In this video, we're going to cover some basic techniques to get you through just about any situation when you're trying to reposition and create an animation with cameras. In this video, we're going to go over some basic techniques you can use to animate your cameras and get you through just about any situation. To get started, we need to add a camera to our project. So make sure you have your timeline panel active, then go up under the Layer menu and choose New, Camera. Now the kind of camera I want to animate first is a one-node camera. So let's click on the camera pull down and choose one node. Then for preset, make sure you have 50mm chosen. If you've made any changes to the camera settings, you can always restore the default settings by Option or Alt-clicking on the trash icon right next to the pull-down. Just be aware if you do that, you might need to go back up to the type of camera and change it back to a one-node camera. Now we don't need to enable depth of field, but we can go ahead and click OK to create our camera. Now in order to keep proper perspective of our scene, I want to go ahead and change to two views. So in the composition panel, click on the pull down and choose two views horizontal. Now that I can see my camera in the top view here on the left side, I'm noticing that that's not quite the best view for the type of move that I'm trying to create. We want to do a move on our graphic where we move from the middle image up to the top image. So let's go ahead and click on the left side of our composition panel and change the view from top to left. This way I can see it from the side of the view, and let's go ahead and scroll with our mouse wheel or press comma on your keyboard to zoom out. Now this little dot over here is my camera. I want to make sure that I can always see my camera. So let's go to the flyout menu in the upper right corner of the composition panel and go to our view options. In here, we want to make sure to enable our camera wireframes. So click on the pull down and change it from when selected to on. Now when we click OK, I can see the camera. Now just so I can see more clearly, I'm going to press period on my keyboard to zoom in and press the spacebar to grab my hand tool, and that'll just allow me to reframe. Before we animate, we can go ahead and select the camera in our canvas. Now a quick, easy way of creating animation is just by enabling automatic keyframing. So let's turn that on by clicking the auto keyframe button in the top of the timeline. Now, since we want to start from this general area, I'm going to hover my mouse over the Y-axis and then click and drag just a little bit. Since this is a one-node camera, it's going to maintain its perfectly parallel position to our graphic elements. Now, since I move this up and down, if you press the U key on your keyboard, it'll show you we've created a position keyframe. I want our move to take place over 2 seconds, so I'm going to move my current time indicator down 2 seconds in the timeline. And we can click and drag on our Y-axis handle to move up in the scene, and we've already created our first camera move. Moving cameras is just like moving any other element inside of After Effects. Once you create 2 keyframes, you have an animation path. So if I zoom into my left view here and press the spacebar to move over, I can actually change that motion path if I wanted to by clicking on these handles and bring it back here to the left. I want our camera to kind of push in and then pop back out when it creates the move. Now I'm going to turn off automatic keyframing just so we don't accidentally create any more keyframes. And to smooth the move out here, I'll go ahead and right click on our second keyframe and under the keyframe assistant, choose Easy Ease In. We can do the same thing for our first keyframe. Let's right click on it, go to our keyframe assistant, but this time we'll choose Easy Ease Out. So it eases out into the move and then back into its current state. So to preview our animation, let's load up a RAM preview. I'm just going to click the preview button in the right side of the preview panel. Once the first 2 seconds of the frames are loaded, we can go ahead and press the spacebar to begin playback of our scene. So I'm going to press the spacebar to stop playback. As you can see, we completed a successful move, but I want to make a change to that move. Just like manipulating other keyframes, when you want to make changes, it's a general good practice to position your current time indicator over one of those keyframes. I'd like to change this move to be the exact opposite. We'll have the camera kind of pull out and then move back to its state. So let's click on this handle and drag it over to the right. We could do the same thing with the lower handle, but notice the axis control handle's in the way. This is when I would just move my current time indicator down to our next keyframe. Then I'll have access to this other handle, and I can go ahead and bring it back, and we could tweak the motion to whatever you like. If we scrub through, again, we'll get a preview as to what's happening in the scene. If you find that the playback is moving rather slowly, go ahead and make sure your active camera is selected, and then in the RAM preview, we could change the resolution down to about half resolution. And we could even tell it to skip certain frames, so I'll tell it to skip every other frame. Now when we load up a RAM preview, it should load up more quickly, and then we'll get a better idea as to how this scene is moving. I like that move much better. You've seen how to animate a one-node camera. We're going to quickly animate a two-node camera just to create kind of a twist on that animation. So let's go up under Layer and choose New Camera. This time, let's choose a two-node camera. We can leave everything else the same and click OK. Just so I don't get confused, I'll turn off the visibility for our first camera, Layer 2, and actually enable Shy for that camera and click the Shy button so we can hide it from view in the timeline. Now this time, I just want to create kind of a rotation around the scene. So let's click on the left side of the composition panel and change the view from left to top. Once we're in the top view, we need to reframe the scene. I'm just going to press the spacebar and click and drag to the right so we can see a better view of our camera. And I can scroll out a little bit to change the magnification. Now to quickly create animation, again, we'll turn on auto keyframing. Let's move our current time indicator to around 1 second and select our camera in our top view. Now click on the X-axis handle and hold down the Command key after you start to click. That way, it'll keep the point of interest pointed at the center of our scene. Now we can move our current time indicator to 2 seconds, click on that X-axis handle, and again, hold down Command after you start to click, and it'll keep the camera pointed at the point of interest. Now, since it moved so far over to the side, I'm going to press the spacebar and reframe. And this time, I'll just click and drag on the Z-axis to position it in towards the scene. We could also adjust this motion by adjusting its motion path with the control handles. And just turn off auto keyframing when you're finished. Pay attention to the active camera. I'm going to go ahead and make sure that that's active and switch my view back to one view. Now, if we scrub through the animation, you can see that we've created a nice rotational move through the scene with a two-node camera. Now, that didn't show me exactly what I wanted to see for the scene, so I'm going to go ahead and load up a RAM preview. Obviously, that camera move is in desperate need of some easy ease on the keyframes, but I think you understand how important it is to maintain perspective when it comes to animating your cameras. When you go to animate cameras, pay attention to the exact kind of camera you're going to animate, and then adjust the view based on the kind of move that you're trying to recreate.